Hey, welcome to Half the Battle. You know, it seems like forever ago since we last looked at the comic. Where did we leave off?
The last issue we covered was Cobra Commander captured at last. Well, that was easy. Let's check out the next issue. I can't help but notice that on the cover, the commander doesn't look all that captured.
Well, that explains it.
This issue is titled The Commander Escapes. Well, I'm glad they managed to restrain themselves from calling it The Commander Escapes at last. So, and sorry for stating the obvious, the Joes finally captured Cobra Commander last issue. But what were they going to do with him? Well, take him high up to Rocky Mountains, obviously. The commander bitches that this is all a bit too much, and that the site they picked isn't defendable, since they have no fortifications. The Joes promptly drop crates full of fortifications from a transport plane, and even make the guy help them put it together himself. Apparently, in the G.I. Joe universe, IKEA is an important defense contractor. Meanwhile, at Cobra headquarters, Destro is playing with his dolls again.
What? Oh no. I've used that Spaceballs clip way too many times already, thank you very much.
Major Blood and the Baroness return, and they explain that Cobra Commander tried to have Destro killed, but the Baroness prevented it. He is amazed that the love of his life is still alive. And you know, for a solid steel mask, it's surprisingly expressive.
With the commander captured, they vow to do everything they can to break out their glorious leader so that he can... Yeah, I'm just kidding. They're gonna take over Cobra for themselves.
They forgot about one thing though, Storm Shadow. He's been using Cobra resources to determine where the Joe cargo plane could have gone to, and heads to the Rocky Mountains himself. With the commander's help, the Joes have constructed their fortifications. It's another version of the G.I. Joe headquarters toy. He points out a little fortress wouldn't really stand a chance against an airstrike, but Duke retorts that Cobra can't use that kind of firepower without killing their beloved leader in the process, so the only way to attack would be with a ground assault.
Dookie boy, hate to tell you this, but the entire Cobra command structure would happily bomb the crap out of you if it meant they accidentally killed their own commander doing it.
Duke goes on to say that any assault troops would have to be parachuted in, and they have plenty of big guns to blow them and any transport planes out of the sky. He's also still got one mysterious crate as a backup plan. Back at Cobra headquarters, they figure they'd have to kill Cobra Commander if they ever truly want to take over Cobra, but they have no idea where he is. The Baroness suggests Storm Shadow could lead them to him, as she's found out he's been using Cobra assets to find his boss. By the way, look at the detail and the poses they used to draw the Baroness. Holy fan service, Batman! This comic probably is responsible for turning a whole generation of boys into confused men. While explaining that he put a tracker in the ninja sword handle, Blood is holding a friggin' Storm Shadow toy. Yes, I know it's supposed to be a chess piece, but, and I believe I've said this before...
A chess piece? Come on! Especially since in the very next panel, they introduce two new toys. I mean chess pieces. I mean important characters.
Wild Weasel and Firefly are brought in to track Storm Shadow. Though I should point out, they just refer to Wild Weasel as the pilot, the best pilot in Cobra as a matter of fact, and they call Firefly the Firefly for some reason. Their job will be to follow the ninja and take out Cobra Commander, who, at that moment, is having a cup of joe with the Joes. I am so sorry. But we do finally learn how he's able to eat and drink while wearing his battle helmet. It's got a tiny opening that he can put a straw through.
I know those things can be a godsend for us masked people.
He also explains that they shouldn't try to take his helmet off, since it's lined with plastic explosives and would blow up if the helmet is tampered with. Okay, two things here. The Joes captured him in Switzerland and have brought him all the way to the Rocky Mountains and have constructed their fortress. And only now do they think that maybe they should find out what he looks like? I would have thought that, that would have been priority number one. Also, this guy seems to be under the ill-deserved optimistic impression that people are keen on keeping him alive. Now, call me a coward, but if I ever found myself standing next to the leader of a global terrorist organization who had a bunch of explosives strapped to his head, I'd run like hell and start lobbing grenades at him from a safe distance. Meanwhile, Storm Shadow and his pilot have tracked down Cobra Commander's location. The pilot turns his back for an instant, and the ninja is gone.
Hey, no! Bad Storm Shadow! Only Batman is allowed to do that!
He contacts the commander, who hadn't mentioned his helmet also had a short-range radio receiver, and so he promptly finds an excuse to head outside. Once there, Storm Shadow swoops in and picks him up, with the Joes completely failing to see him approach. They even see the commander look up expectantly, and I remind you, they know the only possible attack can come from the sky. And yet, they're completely blindsided.
Stupid, stupid, stupid!
Well, at least Roadblock has the frame of mind to shoot the glider as it's escaping. And the Joes may still be able to recapture the commander, as we see Duke open up the mysterious crate. And it turns out, it's another new toy.
Oh gee, I did not see that one coming.
The G.I. Joe Skyhawk is revealed, though for some reason it's silver instead of green like the toy. Since the Cobra glider is crippled, it can only carry one person now, so the commander takes it for himself. He has some delightful reasoning for this. Of course, I would never leave you here like this if I wasn't sure you were capable of making good your own escape. It just shows how much I trust you, and just go before I change my mind.
I just love this dialogue from both of them.
Duke is right on his tail though, so just a few seconds after he's abandoned the ninja, we get this. Storm Shadow, help me! Lead him to me, I'll deal with him.
And I imagine he did this right before saying that.
With that, Stormy assembles a rifle and climbs a tree, ready to intercept Duke. Roadblock and Gung-Ho, who I guess got tired of sitting with their thumbs up their asses, spot him though, and launch an RPG at the tree, ruining that plan. With Duke closing in on the commander and the others hunting Storm Shadow, things are looking grim for the bad guys. Fortunately for them, the Cobra goons in the plane that dropped off Stormy have their backs as they launch Fang helicopters. They engage Duke, but they get blown to hell, of course. But they do distract him long enough for Cobra Commander to rendezvous with the plane and make his getaway. Meanwhile, the ninja ambushes Gung-Ho and Roadblock and slices up the Cajun pretty bad, but he gets tackled and taken out by the guy that will one day be played by The Rock. Roadblock drags his prisoner back to camp while carrying Gung-Ho on his back. What happened to this guy? I don't know. Dude kept falling down. Wasn't my fault.
Geneva Convention, what is that?
Anyway, they find papers on him telling them he shipped something to Chokoloskee, Florida. And by no coincidence whatsoever, Firefly and Wild Weasel are reporting from that very place to the Cobra leadership at the same time. It would appear Storm Shadow mailed a tracking device they had planted on him to a shack in the middle of the swamps. And the comic ends with two surprise reveals. The commander walks into headquarters to the shock of the three conspirators, and he reveals he knows all about the shack and who owns it. The final panel reveals Zartan standing there, with guns pointed at Firefly and the pilot. So, that was The Commander Escapes. A title that certainly delivered what it promised, and much more in fact. There was plenty of intrigue to be had, at least on the Cobra side. I really liked the whole dynamic of various factions working together and opposing each other, with loyalty shifting at the drop of a hat. And we've got some new players coming into the mix in this comic. Though, on the flip side, the Joes were really in the issue only for one reason: to have their prisoner escape.
My main gripe with the issue is less to do with the story and more with the entire story arc. It was way too short.
They captured the commander in one issue, and he escapes in the very next one. They could have stretched this out a bit more. I mean, the frickin' Joker has spent more time in jail than this guy. But since this is the G.I. Joe comic, they have to move on, because there's new toys to focus on. And that's where the story is headed. This issue introduced Firefly, Wild Weasel, the Skyhawk, the Water Moccasin, and Zartan. Also, maybe one of the Dreadnoks, depending if that biker that was spying on the transport plane was actually a Dreadnok or just an ordinary Cobra agent. I would have really preferred it if the commander had remained captured for a longer stretch, maybe 6 months or so, while Cobra tore itself apart trying to determine who the new leader should be. Maybe during that time have Storm Shadow and Zartan work on several plans to bust him out. Then, when he finally does escape, it would have made more of an impact, and he would have had to deal with a fractured organization on the brink of civil war. Though, if he had been in prison for half a year, that helmet sure would have wreaked something fierce. I do have one more minor annoyance with the issue. It's the commander's Cobra symbol on his chest. It keeps disappearing. I didn't even notice at first, but once I did, it became really annoying.
Having said all that, the story as presented is a good one, and I suggest you check it out. Well, see you next week, everybody.